trabalha, trabalha e sai para dizer, trabalha na casa, que faz o que precisa. Mas então, lá para mais, então, tem que ficar muito amigo. Mas se olha hoje, da mata está dando o seu brinco, agora está com uma segunda mais de ator. Aquele tem uma cúpula adentro, estamos hoje, bandido, dando o bom. A mulher que estamos hoje, saúde, a vaia de esse estado gamalhão, o Protocolos. De 5 de Tuguleiro. Até deixa que Hassidim matizem Shekov e Manudin e Tekimcha. Mas, Protocolos, a tua halabá.
thus became divided into two basic groups which remain today, the Ashkenazim, which are the Khazars of the East, and the Sephardic Oriental, which are Jews of Spain, Turkey, and lands bordering on the Mediterranean. Today, the Ashkenazim, or Khazars, are the vast majority, about 80% of those who call themselves Jews. The Talmud provides generous loopholes for adultery. It says the penalty for adultery does not include sex with a minor, the wife of a minor, or the wife of a heathen. A proselyte under the age of 3 years and a day is permitted to marry a priest. Agreeing with Ben Yochai, the great Rabbah said, "When a grown-up man has intercourse with a little girl, it is nothing, or when the girl is less than this, 3 years and a day, it is as if one put the finger into the eye." Mary, the Talmud says, was a whore who mated with carpenters. It naturally followed that the scribes declared Christ to be a bastard.
Talking about the Israelis and the Palestinians, but I don't see Palestine on the map.
Well, Lisa, the Palestinians live here, but they don't have a country of their own.
Why not?
It's complicated, but let me try to explain. Both peoples wanted a country in a place they call the Holy Land. After World War II, Western powers divided it between them, but Arab nations said no. Over the years, wars were fought with the new country of Israel, and Israel won, taking control of Palestinian land. There hasn't been peace since. Now 1.5 million Palestinians live in Gaza, packed into this tiny strip of land. And more are refugees in other countries or live here in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. But Israeli governments have covered this Palestinian land with new Jewish towns called settlements. Settlers are just 1/10 of the population, but they've taken over most of the land. The settlements are like colonies, built to control as much land and water as possible. They're illegal under international law, but no one stops them. Some settlements have a lot of guns, but this is not the Wild West. They have malls, factories, and swimming pools. They get 3 times as much water as Palestinian villages, which have to deal with shortages and settlement sewage. The settlements are connected by a maze of roads, some only Israelis can use. While Palestinians can spend hours every day passing through military checkpoints just to get to school, or work, or even the hospital. Some Palestinians have never been able to visit relatives who live just miles away. Israel has also built a huge security wall that's taken over even more land. It cut some Palestinian villages down the middle, separating farmers from their lands and people from their friends and family. So the real map looks like this, with the wall, roads, and over 200 settlements squeezing Palestinians into small pockets. You see, Lisa, today there still really isn't a place that Palestinians can call their own. Some have turned to violence and even terrorism, and attacks in recent years by both sides have killed over 1,000 Israelis and over 6,000 Palestinians. And after decades of suffering under Israeli control, Palestinians are desperate for freedom and an independent state. It's a sad story.
And I know that when I visit AIPAC, I'm among friends, good friends. Friends who share my strong commitment to make sure that the bond between the United States and Israel is unbreakable today, unbreakable tomorrow, unbreakable forever. I have been proud to be a part of a strong bipartisan consensus that has stood by Israel in the face of all threats. That is a commitment that both John McCain and I share, because support for Israel in this country goes beyond party. Our alliance is based on shared interests and shared values. Those who threaten Israel threaten us. Israel has always faced these threats on the front lines, and I will bring to the White House an unshakable commitment to Israel's security. We know that the establishment of Israel was just and necessary, rooted in centuries of struggle and decades of patient work. But 60 years later, we know that we cannot relent, we cannot yield, and as president, I will never compromise when it comes to Israel's security.